Okay, welcome to Boundaries Month. I'm chatting with Jana Mariana. Jana, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we will talk about boundaries?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Emily. So I'm a registered nurse and holistic health and life coach. So I help women with kind of everything, you know, because essentially if you have one problem, it's going to affect all your other parts of your life. I run groups for mindful eating where we look at how our emotions impact our eating, how things like slowing down can help, how mindful eating can actually be the only thing you do and improve your eating, and potentially improve weight if weight's an issue for you. We also look at, foods that will give you energy and help with this menopausal period, because there's certainly some shifts that can be made that will help and some shifts that could be made that would not help.
It won't help. Yeah.
So that's what I do with groups. And then privately, like I said, I work with primarily women, menopausal, postmenopausal, on life issues and or health issues, and sometimes both.
Awesome.
Consecutively. I don't want to say at the same time, but kind of at the same time.
Yeah, but as things come up, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Awesome. So boundaries must be something that you are working with clients on all the time.
Yes. Yeah, because on women particularly, we often don't have very strong boundaries. A lot of it has just been conditioning, right? It's hard for us to say no. We want to be nice.
We want people to like us.
We want people to like us. And a lot of that, like I said, is our conditioning, kind of get put into two categories of, are you nice, or are you kind of, a B word, or there's not a lot of in between. And then we're also used to kind of not putting ourselves first.
Yeah.
Putting everybody else's needs first before we take care of ourselves. So setting boundaries can be kind of uncomfortable, can be a new skill to practice, but certainly worth the effort. That is, again, like how a lot of people, I think, especially at this juncture, let's say 40s-ish on, where we start to realize, like, what I'm doing isn't quite working. And what can I do? How can I make my life work for me? And a lot of it is just this exhaustion of doing for others, and putting yourself last on your list.
And I think that's it, isn't it? Because a lot of us, just as when we went through puberty, we didn't have very much energy because our bodies were, busy dealing with hormones. So we come into perimenopause, and a lot of us find that our energy dips. And if you're trying to be all things to all people, you suddenly can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, there's some things to think about, like, when you're saying yes to everything, what are you saying no to? And oftentimes it's you're saying no to yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're saying no to your health. You're saying no to sleep. You're saying no to downtime. But saying no can be a very scary thing.
Can't it just? Honestly. Yeah. So how do you help people to get started? What would you suggest for people? So maybe people have identified areas where they kind of know it would be good to have a boundary, but it feels really scary to start implementing it.
Yeah. So I usually suggest starting with something that doesn't feel super scary. So, something that's not going to have a hugely bad outcome if you set a boundary, right? So, for example, I have clients that are, basically managing their adult children's lives. So we wouldn't start with cutting them off. We would start with something simple, like, okay, maybe the next time your kid gets a parking ticket, you very gently and kindly say, I'm sorry, that's something that you're going to have to do. So something that's not going to be the end of the world if you're not, the rescuer. So something small like that, something that doesn't have a lot of, consequences, if you will. So you can kind of practice the skill of saying no, of enforcing a boundary. The other thing to consider too is it's going to feel really uncomfortable at first, especially if you're a person that's used to doing everything, used to saying yes to everything. And I've had clients say, that I feel cold. I feel like I'm just being cold, right? And I'm like, okay, that makes sense because this is a new skill for you, right? And we've been trained to say, like, doing everything is how you show love, doing everything is how you're a good mom, a good partner, a good daughter, sister, whatever it is. So you might feel those feelings at first. And that's another thing to keep in mind, just to expect it. Like, yeah, this is going to feel uncomfortable at first. This is a new skill you're developing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting what you say about sort of picking the things where actually the people can perfectly easily sort themselves out as a starting point. So I was talking about this with somebody, I can't remember who, doesn't matter, but they were saying that one that they had started with was just saying, I'm not cooking tonight. I don't care if you get a takeaway, I don't care if you eat toast, I don't care what you do, I'm not cooking tonight. And this was in a family where there was the partner and sort of teenage or adult children. I don't remember quite the details, but they were like, I don't need to be cooking for you all, so tonight I'm not cooking. And that then became, on X night every week, I just don't cook or whatever. And it seems, once you kind of have started setting boundaries, you think, well, that seems really straightforward. But if you never have, that feels huge, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does. And that's a great example because, they're not going to starve.
Yeah.
And what I like about that example too is, the woman, I presume, telling her family what's happening, right? So I think that's another important thing, is telling somebody, like, I'm not going to be doing this anymore, instead of just stopping it, right? Because that's one way to go, but probably going to be a harder way to go, and it's going to cause a lot of confusion, in whatever dynamic you have set up. So just simply stating, I'm not going to be cooking on Wednesdays anymore, or I'm not going to be the person that cooks every night. We're going to figure out a schedule.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And then also,
and that can expand out to washing as well, because I see this so often in the hub, people complaining, and understandably, saying, oh, and all the washing, and then people leave their towels here and there. It's like, well, just leave it. Just tell them you're only doing your own washing. They'll figure it out.
Right.
A washing machine is not a difficult piece of kit to figure out.
Right, exactly. And then too, so there's a couple of things in that too, that you're going to have to be willing to let the washing go unwashed.
Yeah.
Go uncooked, right? You're going to have to be willing to accept whatever is going to happen. And you're going to have to expect that for a little while, it's going to be hard on the other people, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
and that's the point. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. And they might rebel against it a little bit. And that's okay too, because this is, it's going to be changed for the other people involved as well. So it's going to feel uncomfortable for the other people as well. And that's okay. They can be uncomfortable for a little bit, until the new balance comes in. And, and sometimes people will get a little extreme on the other end, right? Like, okay, mom or partner's not washing up, I'm going to leave everything everywhere, and be a little passive aggressive about it,
But
And
sometimes actually it surprises you, and it goes completely the other way, and you go, okay, I'm not going to cook tonight for whatever. I'm going to stick with the cooking suggestion just because it's an easy one. And a family member steps up, and suddenly you discover that they have this amazing talent for cooking that no one of you knew about. And you think, well, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
And suddenly, actually, as a family, you're able to get much more interested in the food you're having, and start looking at recipes. And it can become a really nice, positive thing that brings you together. Washing less so, because frankly, washing's boring, whoever you are,
Right.
But the cooking thing actually can be lovely. It can be a really nice sort of bringing together.
Right.
Having felt like it was going to be a pushing away, it can be, something that kind of actually brings you closer, which is lovely.
Yeah, it is. And also, I think when I hear you say that, it makes me think of a lot of assumptions that we make too. right?
Yeah.
Like we just assume this is like what we have to do. We just assume other people can't do it, or that this is the expectation. And until you open up that dialogue, you really don't even know. Like you said, maybe somebody in the family was like, actually been wanting to cook, but you kind of taking over all the time. I don't want to step on your toes, you know?
Yeah.
I had, this is not a cooking example, but I had a client once who she was separated from her, the father of her child. And she was doing all this stuff to bend over backward to make all the schedules, you know, perfect for everyone else. And I said, well, do they even want that? Like, is that necessary? And she went and talked to everybody, and they were like, no, we can have a schedule. We can, you know, we can
Yeah.
sort things out, right? You know, so sometimes just having that conversation and opening the door can really show you that, oh, you know, these things that I've been doing where I assumed I had to do them and now I'm super resentful about them. Actually, I didn't need to be doing all along.
Yeah. And another thing that I remember learning this one, which was about just simply saying no. I remember when my partner and I first got together, he's always been somebody who, if he doesn't want to do something, he just won't do it. I mean, not in a bad way, you know, but he's always had that very clear sense of, you know, if someone invites him to a party and he doesn't think he wants to go, he'll just say he can't go. You know, there won't be any sort of, oh God, I've got to give a reason. And I remember when we first got together, we'd been invited to something. And I said, I really don't want to go. Oh God, what am I going to tell them? What am I going to say? He was like, just tell them you can't go. Really? And he's like, they couldn't care less what your excuse is. Just tell them you can't go. And I'm like, wow, just mic drop moment. Do you know what I mean? And, and so I did that. And yeah, rightly, he was right. You know, there were no repercussions. I just simply didn't go. And nobody hated me for it. Nobody then, you know, pinned me down for the Spanish Inquisition as to why I hadn't gone. Because, oh yeah, everybody else is far too preoccupied with their own life.
Right.
And I've wasted years of energy worrying about what other people think. And just in that one instance, I went, oh,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's almost like the light bulb just turned on. You're like, what? Wait, I could just say no to something? That's okay.
The world doesn't stop turning.
Yeah, and that's where sometimes we can learn from men who just have a different approach to, you know, lots of things, right?
Yeah.
But don't always. I'm sure there are men out there that do that overthink like we do, but you know, just like, no, we don't want to do that, no problem, right?
Yeah. And I think, you know, again, and I am massively stereotyping according to gender, but I think it plays out, and that's why the stereotypes are there. But men generally create space in their week to play golf if that's their thing, to go for a bike ride if that's their thing, to whatever their thing is. Men tend to create space in the week for it, and they don't kind of overthink that, what if little Jimmy needs me at home at that point or whatever. They just, well, that's when I'm doing that. And
Right.
as women, we tend not to do that because we tend to think, oh, well, I've got to what, oh God, and there's all these what ifs, and you know, and actually we're all healthier and happier for all of us, you know, for our whole home livelihood, if we have created that time for our space, whether it's sitting down with a book, whether it's seeing friends, whether it's going for a long walk, it doesn't matter what it is. But we sort of, we have it conditioned into us that that's selfish somehow, don't we?
Yes, we do. And again, that's another thing that if you do start going out and making time for yourself, it might feel selfish at first.
Yeah. But
You know,
but
you
the big thing is,
might,
but the thing is, there's nothing wrong with being selfish.
correct. Great. Yeah.
And it does feel weird to start with, but it's okay to put yourself first.
It absolutely is. And you know, when you are just you know, succumbing to everybody's whims and not making time for yourself, not carving out space for yourself, that's when resentment grows. Right. And resentment, if you have resentment, you're not doing anybody around you any favors, right?
No, not
You're
at
not,
all.
if you're missing your, dance class on Wednesday night or whatever, and you're sitting there Wednesday night being completely resentful of everyone in your family or whatever it is you've given, you've done, that you're giving up this dance class, you might as well not even be there, right?
Exactly. You may as well have just gone to the dance class and then everybody is happier.
Yeah, yeah. And that too, that's my mom is a teacher. So when I first had kids, she really was good about telling me, like, hey, you have to do things to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So you can take care of your kids.
Yeah.
If that means you need to, they were little, if that means you need to put the baby in the crib for a little while while you take a shower and the baby cries,
It's
you're going to
okay.
be a better mom after you get out of the shower.
Yeah.
You're not abandoning, not abandoning your child to take a 5-minute shower.
No. And I think yeah, talking about sort of, early motherhood. I've never had children, but I observe this, all the time. I really feel for new mums when they just have this barrage of expectation upon them, and it feels like they can do no right in a lot of ways. And that's a time, I mean, obviously we're talking about perimenopause, so we're talking about a later stage, but that's a time when I hope, as as each generation comes through, that younger generations get better at putting those boundaries in when they are a new mum, because you hear of people who, like, new child comes home from hospital, mum is understandably absolutely wiped out, she's trying to breastfeed, she's trying to do all this stuff, and then all the family and friends just sort of traipse through and expect to be waited on hand and foot. Where is that expectation coming from?
Yeah. Crazy. Totally crazy.
It's crazy. And yet we kind of all find ourselves in that, going, oh yes, of course, I'll just bow down and bend over backwards to make everything okay. No, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah. And it is unfortunate because there is a lot of judgment on women. It is true. I mean, when my mother-in-law comes over, I want to make sure my house is clean because because it's going to fall on me. Never mind that there's 3 other people that live here.
No, exactly. But it falls on you.
But it falls on me, and I'm a bad whatever. I'm a bad wife or mother, and look how she can't keep her house clean, and So it is something to definitely, it's hard. It's really hard to get over it. And, even me teaching these things, it's really hard to get over, the expectations. And I do hope, that we, as women that are in these years who may have children who are girls, but also boys, model taking care of ourselves, model that, it's okay to go to your yoga class or your dance class, that mom's not cooking dinner every night,
So, yeah, exactly. And I think you raised a really good point there, that you still feel the weight of the expectation. I definitely still feel it. I think we're not recording this from a point of going, well, we've got our boundaries sorted, so we're totally just telling you what to do. We're all a work in progress here, but I think it's having an awareness of it is a really good starting point. So I think anybody watching this and thinking, right, where do I start? It's starting to have that awareness, isn't it? Where are the things where you can feel the resentment coming? Is that maybe that's where a boundary wants to start, germinating.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kind of tuning into where your resentments are. And then, like we said in the beginning, choosing something that, is kind of a low impact at first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at the plant behind you and thinking, actually, it can be things like that. Just going, do you know what? I'm not watering the plants. That's someone else's job, because and it's on you if they die. It's not on me anymore.
Right.
And it seems so little, but it's just one less thing to have to remember to do.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other final words of wisdom for people around boundaries?
Well, there's this quote, I found it or I saw it one time, and I just think it makes it easier to set a boundary, maybe. And it's something like, I'm probably not going to get it correctly, but it says, your boundary doesn't have to be an angry electrical fence around you. It can be a soft white light that shows other people how to treat you.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
So your boundary can be all lovely sparkliness and
Mhm.
and literally says, I am only deserving of sparkliness.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be set with love.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much, Jana.
thank you, Emily. It's always nice to chat.